we are, yeah.
Brian and Tiago were correct.
No, exactly.
I just can't do it right.
Has had their photo retouched.
It's all right, we're filling it up with staff. It's fine.
Ready to go whenever you're ready, buddy.
Oh,
Should we crack on?
want Paul in the picture.
no. I've had enough pictures.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Is that working? I might shout. Very good point. It's good with technology. Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm Will, and welcome to the final, but also the best panel of the whole. No, we'll just welcome to the final panel of the conference. Hey, that's. I'm Will Woodhams. I'm CEO of Fitzdares. We have been operating since February in Ontario, work with some of the people on the panel, and have had our license since April, and we're very excited to be here. But I won't be talking about me today. Just to remind you why you're here, in case you're in the wrong room. Tech, innovation in finance, payments, compliance, and CX, the next wave of disruption. I think the panel is, which we'll get to in a second, is about what tools, specifically tech tools, can you use to both improve customer service and compliance, and obviously payments being a big thing in Ontario. I'd never heard of Interact before I got here, and now it's the bane of my life. And it's just understanding all of those facets that would help both sportsbook and casinos make the consumer journey seamless. It'd be really helpful if the panelists said their name again, even though everyone can see your names, but also explain what you do, who you work for, and just a bit about the business. Ryan.
Hey everyone, Brian Chase. I'm the head of technology at Fanduel, and I support our retail sportsbook business, which is 28 brick and mortar sportsbooks across the US, and had the pleasure of leading Fanduel Canada from the technology perspective through the first 18 months so far of operations here in Ontario. So thanks for sticking it out with us for the panel. Thanks.
Hey guys, I'm Tiago. I'm the. Yeah, it doesn't look like we're stopping everybody from happy hour now. But CEO of Aurum Solutions, we are a reconciliation software provider. We work majority with fintechs, financial services companies, and iGaming in particular. Very, very well known, I would say, in Europe, and now bringing this technology to North America as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Paul Foster from Crucial Compliance. We provide RegTech around the compliance space, so operation compliance, AML, RG, fraud, risk, with an open source platform. And we also do consultancy on anything you want.
But Paul, on that, you're not in Ontario yet, or you're coming, or you are?
Yes, we will shortly be here. We're just building 2 versions for 2 clients. Yeah, we'll be operating within 6 weeks. So we've just been through the pain of building the Ontario version.
Cool. Okay, so I suppose this sounds like an operator question. So we'll start with Brian. But first up, Ontario, was it worth it? Is a big question, and then we'll move on to how tech can support that.
I wanted to come here and be controversial and maybe be like, no, it wasn't successful. But no, from the Fanduel perspective, we were really happy with how the first 12 to 18 months have gone. I think from a sportsbook perspective, feeling pretty good about a podium position here in Ontario. I think as the sporting calendar winds down, NBA finals, NHL playoffs are done. Now we're starting to really focus on our iGaming and our casino platform. So looking forward to getting a podium position there too.
On casino?
On casino,
okay.
And sportsbook as well.
If there was a podium with 40 places, I'd be bang up there. and be very proud to. Initial first point of view on the market in Ontario from a payment finance perspective.
I mean, from our point of view, in terms of is it worth it? I mean, if you think it through, a market that's been regulated for about a year, and they've done 1.6 million active players, 1.4 billion in revenue. I mean, you must say it's worth it. Straight to the top 5 in North America. So you must say it's worth it. We've seen, again, as I said, we literally tier 1, tier 2 operators in Europe tend to use our software. We've seen a lot of movement to North America and a really big interest in Canada. So I think that, as we know, we'll see some consolidation in the future. It always happens. But movement of big players as well, I think that it's on the roadmap for sure.
Just for the audience, how would you make the consumer journey easier from a betting perspective?
I mean, from our point of view, I mean, being in these panels is really interesting for us, bringing a totally different perspective. I mean, what we do is we help the finance teams, which is pretty much forgotten. Think it through. An operator, first thing they want to get money in, right? So the head of payments spends all the time as you said, interact, etc. That's the first thing you said in the beginning. So everybody tries to get more payment methods, try to open bank accounts, try to get more and more games on board, sometimes using multiple platforms. What they forget is the impact that has on the backbone of the team. So what we do is we make the back office operations a lot easier by automating the entire reconciliation process, make sure that every deposit, every withdrawal is accounted for. And again, being extremely honest, there is very little difference between a bank or a financial service institution and a gaming operator. If I take $10, stick it in my Fanduel account, that money still belongs to me until I gamble it away, of course. But that money belongs to me, so you're keeping it safe for me. So from a safeguarding perspective, sometimes people forget how important it is to take care of your client money, and that's where we come in and automate the whole shebang. So it makes a big difference for people.
So, I mean, speed for both the internal organization and the consumer is critical to that.
Sorry?
Speed, not the drug. No.
No, exactly. It's making sure that all of that happens extremely fast. And I mean, not just speed, but accuracy. That's the key word, isn't it? It's like doing it fast, everybody can do it. Fast and well is a totally different conversation at a transactional level. So millions of deposits and withdrawals happening every day.
Yeah, accuracy and money are two words that should move in the same direction. Paul, so you're obviously onboarding Ontario clients as we speak. What is the, I suppose, a year and a bit into dealing with the regulator, what is the feedback you're getting from clients and what are the tools they need to be better at compliance?
Yeah, I think, whenever you enter a new market, it's an investment. So the investment actually, when you're a B2B supplier, is normally in the regulator itself. So you need to find a regulator you can work with. Regulation can be tough as long as it's fair. And I think what we've had with Ontario is quite tough regulation, but fair regulation. And I think we've also got a regulator you can talk to. So it's, from somebody in our space coming into the market, we've watched it, we've seen it grow, and we've gone, yeah, we want to be in. So we've come into the market, we've had a look around, we've talked to everyone, and people are very positive about the market. The results stand up for themselves. They're doing very well. But, if you're going to develop a system for a market, it has to be specific and it has to work. And in reality, you only know that when you put it live. So, you come in, you build it, and you've got to go for it. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. We've seen, we've watched, we've made a decision, we've found some great partners to come in with, and we've launched because of the quality of the regulation.
I know you're going to give me the sales pitch, but having fair to say, automated one-stop shop for compliance, is that ultimately going to make bookies more money?
Well, basically, yes. And it'll avoid fines as well. One of the things in the regulations here is it's all about control. It's about the control environment.
In the UK, just to be clear, in the UK, you build fines into your P&L, and so you have to count for that. Don't talk about that at bonus time, but it's really critical. Here, less so.
Here, less so. There have been fines, but I think what we're trying to do here is actually fulfill the side end of all of the requirements, which is that control environment, that audit trail. And the only way to do it and do the level of monitoring that is actually in the regulation is through technology. So if you want to spend the time running your business and running it well, you're going to have technology solutions to fulfill the requirements of the control area. And basically, it's an enterprise risk management system you need. So when you're looking at areas such as AML, and we've got responsible gaming here, which is fantastic. It's the right way to go, and I think all the operators are on board with it. You've got to implement it correctly, because if you get it wrong, it will kill your P&L. And it's all about player journey, and it's about looking at the market and saying, right, we're not going to take our traditional models, which is the player value model. What we're going to do is build a sustainable player value model. We're going to build a model where we get players, we keep players, we're not churning players, and believe it or not, the RG and AML is key to that, because that's how you're losing a lot of players in other markets.
So I'm losing all of my players.
Yeah.
I would just say from the operator perspective there, Paul, you make a good point, and Tiago, about it's all about trust and safety and building goodwill with your customers. I think for Fanduel, we've built that up in the US, and so for us coming to Canada, it was a natural transition for our customer base, but ultimately, yeah, we have to continue to build that goodwill. It's about trust, and if someone's going to deposit $10, $100, $1 million maybe, we have to have that trust of the customer that we're protecting their money and we're protecting our business as well, because a lot of the AML rules and risk that we provide as an operator is we want to protect our customers, but we also have to protect ourselves from bad actors. And we have seen an uptick in fraud activities in Ontario just as the market has settled. And we use tools like what Paul and Tiago's teams build to help us with that.
I don't want to be rude about people from the US, but we joked yesterday that we had no concept that there were any credit card fraudsters in Canada, and we just presumed they're North American gangs crossing the border, crossing that soft border and abusing Canadians' hospitality. But maybe there are a few credit card criminals in Canada that we're going to have to accept that now. I think sustainability is such a critical word, and it can sound a little dull, but if you look at the market, particularly in the US, with private equity investment, and it really was how much can you physically spend on acquisition to go back to your overlords and say, look at our head count, look at our depositing actives, look at these numbers. We're coming out of that kind of funnel now where people aren't just wasting money, and that sustainable model needs to be so damn smooth with both compliance and payments. And back to you, Brian, what do you think were the pain points for Canadian? I mean, you launched very early in the market, and
well, we launched day one, April 4th.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And so you're sitting there, 11:59 on April 3rd, and you get one shot April 4th, and I think we did a pretty good job with our launch and attracting a nice customer base from day one.
But what was the pain points in that? Well, obviously you probably had it worse than everyone in that respect.
Well, I think there's this need for, we're talking about innovation, right? Innovation in the payment space, and I think we've done a good job of bringing payments to where our customers are. What they're using here in Canada is different than the US. So Interact, as you said, and we had great partners with Nuvei here in Canada, as well as PayPal. We were the first operator to bring American Express the payments to Canada as well. So we feel pretty good about that innovation. But for us, it's balancing the pace of innovation with the safety and the trust and fraud, and trying to do this in a safe way. I don't think this is my sole opinion, but when we start talking about credit cards and we start talking about prepaid cards, there's questions of RG and risk for that, because we know less about those customers. So for us, it's trying to give the customers what they want, but also protecting ourselves from any of those liabilities that we may have.
I was actually quite surprised, because in the UK we don't. Sorry to bring it back to the UK, but we ban credit cards, and in fact we were the first bookmaker to do it. But I was purely doing that as a virtual signaling thing. I had no interest, and no one really used credit cards anyway. But I was interested that they're fine here. Culturally, I think there's a different approach in Ontario to the use of credit cards. In the UK, you literally go to your limit and stay on it for the rest of your life and then die, and your relatives pay it off for you. But I think here people pay monthly like Amex and stuff like that. Paul, I don't know, obviously you're not quite there, started yet, but what's the feedback you have?
So, I think credit cards are generally misunderstood. But when they were banned in the UK...
We're all misunderstood.
They were actually a key marker of harm because they gave you a lot more data than the debit card did. So we were able to get a lot more data, and we had access to more financial services data. And then they got banned, which took a whole host of data away that they then introduced as law we had to have, which was absolutely bizarre. What I would say is that, credit cards used responsibly are fine. And, a lot of people use credit cards day to day. They can be a lot easily accepted than debit cards here. I found that out. There's a lot of places that don't accept them for some reason. But the general use of credit cards is not a problem. And the fact is, if you ban credit cards, I think the regulator here has realized this. They'll just go and get the money elsewhere. They'll go and get payday loans. They'll go and sell the TV. If you want to gamble, you'll find a way to do it. So banning credit cards is a virtue signaling thing rather than a reality. And I don't see any reason why it should be expected to happen here.
I'm going to list selling your TV as a marker of harm, because that does to me sound like something you'd be quite desperate to. So I don't think that's a good thing, Paul. But luckily your software would pick up on that. I don't want to get bogged down on credit cards, but I just think it's part of the growing pains of a market, and it's interesting, and I love the idea of Amex. Personally, I'd love to gamble with a card that gave me points. It would be fantastic. You'd be flying around the world. Avios, yeah, it'd be phenomenal. So I suppose I'm going to stay with an operator for a second. I said what were the pain points, but what did you feel on April the 6th that you got really right from a tech perspective?
Everything. Yeah, I think we got a good mix of meeting our customers where they were in terms of, I think the compliance piece was something that I think we got really right, of just being able to sort of geolocate folks correctly in Ontario from day one, where they are. One of the things that I think is different between US and Canada is with Fanduel, we don't have shared liquidity between the US and Canada, so that geo compliance piece is really important for us, just to make sure that we're getting to the right wallet in the right place. So that's something that I think we got right. We were live on Android, iOS. We're just meeting our customers where they were, and one of the things that I think makes Fanduel unique in the market, and there's 40-something operators at this point, is I think we have a really competitive sports betting offering in terms of the events and the markets that we offer. We had pretty good parity with our US product in terms of single game parlays, and our pricing is the exact same as our US product. So we felt really good about the sport mix as we launched on April 4th, right into the heart of the NBA and the NHL season. So I think for us, just getting the sports betting right, geolocation right, were the two big things for us.
We'll get on to geolocation because it is critical in this part of the world. But Tiago, I suppose it's a big question, and you might not be able to answer. Well, I'm sure you can. But I kind of think about Ontario as a phenomenal guinea pig location to try things that could potentially work in other provinces in Canada or other states in America. I mean, is there I know obviously we're just trying to settle the market because it's launched, but do you think there's opportunities and exciting products? I'm giving you a chance to plug products that could be tested here or work here that would perhaps roll out in other places.
Well, that's a very good question, but as you said, I'm not really sure I'm the man for that question. I think being a provider of financial software, unfortunately, we don't have the chance to test a lot of new stuff. But for us, understanding, as you said, the market, the payment ecosystem is really, really important, I guess. So
So in a sense, launching here with Aurum means that it's going to be very easy to launch into other provinces if they become legal.
100%, yeah. We don't need to adapt the product too much. It's the matter of building the right integrations with the local payment methods and then provide the operators with the right technology and reporting.
It does feel like Ontario has been a test bed for other provinces, and that's going to be quite exciting because, I mean, I don't know, but they're probably cut and copy to other provinces, the regulation, everything else. I mean, is that what you've been hearing?
Yeah, I think that they've done such a good job here, and the regulator is, as I said, fair and transparent. So it would make sense to actually use that as the basis for future regulation. Why change something that's not broken? I mean, why would you do it? You don't want to have the US situation with just completely different regulation in every country, every state, even different ones between sports betting and casino. I mean,
could you see a pan-Canadian product going live relatively soon? Or would you, I mean, because of tax revenues, would you have to be, I'm not quite sure the intricacies of provincial law, whether you'd still have to geo-comply by province?
Well, I mean, to the point, Paul, like in the US, Wire Act, from a technology perspective, means that we have to set up our infrastructure 50 times in 50 states. And I think Canada has the opportunity, and I think we've had good relationships with the regulators in the space to get that right, I would say. And for us at Fanduel, one of the things that makes this province unique is that it offers competition, and competition is best for our customers in the long run, and the best product, the best technology is going to win ultimately. But I think if you see something like Alberta that could potentially come this year or next year, we are in the opinion of wanting to keep it similar to the rules and regulations of Ontario, because that cost of launching in a new province goes down tremendously for everyone, and that will result in a better product for customers in Alberta and other provinces.
And you've seen, Brian, you've seen the success as well. You know, like recent stats say that about 85% of the players have now moved to regulated operators, and that's incredible success. Thinking through, Canada is well known as a grain market. I mean, I'm not sure you're allowed to say this in panels, but it was one of the most famous grey market operations. And the fact that some other countries in Europe, it was so slow, the transition, and you had the grey market operators continue to profit from markets and operators that actually are licensed not being so successful. And in Canada, it was such a quick transition. 85% is a massive stat. And I guess it is also because, as you said before, Paul, the compliance is tough but fair. And you can see, again, tax is fair, so that makes the operators a chance to build good products as well.
The regulator actually has a T-shirt that says "tough but fair," which I spotted earlier. Anything to add to that, Paul? Sorry.
I was just going to go back slightly to the payments thing. You know, when you have a newly regulated market, it is all about trust, and it is the speed you can get those payments in and out. And the number one, customer complaint that you're going to be getting is slow payments, right? That's just reality. That's what people call. And it is also a massive marker of harm from a responsible gaming point of view. If people are complaining, there's something wrong. So you want to make that player journey, effective. And, the speed that the operators here have actually embraced, the payments systems and, changed their own payment systems and innovated has been really quick. So that bodes well for the rest of Canada.
So we're looking ahead a year in the market, and I just think what technological advances we could see, I think from an operator point of view, is that, player props and some of those, and encouraging what we call in Europe the ACCA market here, and those multiples and stuff like the parlays, and just, do you see that evolving over the next year?
I think for Fanduel, I think we have the best single game parlay product in the market. And we've spent a lot of time and energy and technology to get that mix right. And in Ontario, NHL is a sport that we want to continue to invest in. So getting single game parlay working for SGP, we're moving into live SGPs during the game and getting into the micro betting of sport. And we were very surprised actually at how much NBA and NFL really took off here in Ontario. So I think we were able to capitalize on that because of how robust our product offering was in the US around those. But yeah, I think sky's the limit, and we're continuing to rethink how we merchandise and commercialize our betting markets for our customers to make it, one, easier for them to figure out what they want and what to bet on, and just giving them more opportunity, more options. I was joking with someone off stage earlier, if everyone loses, no one comes back, right? So we want to see our customers win. We want to see them have good paydays. We want to celebrate those on social media and in our marketing and promotional activities. So we think the sky's the limit for sports betting here in Canada.
And do you think in-play will take up a larger share of the market?
I think we're betting on that becoming more prevalent in our mix.
That was a pun there, Brian. I like that.
No pun intended.
But did you think compared to other more mature markets, I feel like it's catching up at such a speed, in a sense, the player behavior and betting on in-play and new sports and stuff like that?
Yeah, we haven't really seen too much of a difference from our big U.S. states. You know, I'm from New York and New Jersey. It's been there especially New Jersey for a while, and we feel pretty good about where the mix is at. The thing that we're trying to do internally is figure out our margins and our liabilities and the pricing that we want to offer, because the more you adopt single game parlay, the more risk that we take on as an operator. We think we have the right side of it, but as you know, we recently had a string of Toronto Blue Jays success in Canada over the last few weeks.
That's an anomaly. And
I know.
Some would describe it as a freak.
I'm a Mets fan, so I can't really say anything, but we had customers with really good success in some of those opportunities, and we've seen things like laddering, where in social media someone would keep doubling their bets and their parlays every day, and it kept hitting, right? And so we're accumulating risk and exposure that maybe we wouldn't have.
There's an interesting question on that, and you're coming from a big operator's point of view. It's in your interest for multiple operators because you want to. It's in your interest. It could be a concern that we have a slight shakedown, and again, we see in other markets, global markets, you have 3 or 4 big operators, and the rest, like me, are just scrabbling at the edges, having much more fun, but and offering a much better personal service and customer service. Anyway, your thoughts on that? I think the regulator wouldn't be very happy if there were 5 operators in 5 years.
No, and I think
just to be clear, Brian, be over the moon.
Yeah.
But I'll ask you guys.
I think if you look at the model where it went wrong is the US model, because everybody threw so much money at it, no one could afford to stay in. So you're going to just be stuck with limited choice of the big players, except for individual states or where there is innovation. Then you're going to have a very limited market. Here, everybody can make money. The market is open. It is fair. So, I don't think we're going to see a shakedown here, and I think there is a lot of opportunity for smaller operators to make money. And again, when you look at the regulation, it isn't going to catch you out as easily as most people thought. The regulation is fine. So if you're entering the market, you don't have to make that massive provision for the $10 million fine that you're going to have on year 3. It shouldn't be coming because you can easily apply the rules.
It's so much more consultative, so there's less surprises, which is ultimately what everyone wants from everything in life. It sounds a bit boring, but you know what I mean. On that, just like the market as a whole, do you see it staying multiple operators, or how would you know? But just have a guess for the sake of the panel.
I guess consolidation is normal. No, you've seen it everywhere else, so why would Canada be different? I just think that, as you were mentioning, the barrier to entry is pretty low in Canada when compared to other markets, and that's why smaller operators take up on.
I'm cheap. That's fine. Carry on.
But again, consolidation will be a future. But if you think it through, as you said before, players benefit from variety, and competition makes the market better. In the end of the day, everybody knows that player retention in iGaming is a bit of a myth. It's quite easy to move from one operation to the other. I'm not talking about even bonus abuse, etc. I'm talking about the natural moving between one operator to the other. But if you've seen what happened in really mature markets, like the UK, which is the oldest market, although there's been massive consolidation, there's still fantastic new operators popping up with new ideas. And the thing I see the most is they are 100% focused on player experience. And that's what I always say in any of these panels is, if you focus on what you're really good at and forget everything else, then you'll get better results, better players, and your technology team should be focused on player experience and making everything seamless, not on back office stuff or compliance, etc. Leave that for us, eh? Yeah.
That's fine.
Last thing I'll just add on that is, I think from a Fanduel perspective, being more of a major player in North America, we have a little bit of an advantage in terms of bigger war chests. We can market and support our Canadian business sort of off the back of our US business. But I think your point about innovation is really good. The best products and the best technology is going to win. So if you're a smaller operator in this space, if you're just going to do the same thing that the big players are going to do, you're probably not going to win. So you're going to have to find ways to differentiate your product and your technology to capture an audience that may honestly not have considered it before. So
Correct. That's why I'm buying all of our players hot tubs. Because I can't compete with your technology. Now, final thing before we move to the worse questions than mine is I'm quite interested in the. I mean, we talk a lot. One of the dirty secrets of the market currently. I'm not sure this in your numbers because I know you have a great sports book, but it's 75% casino. And anyone who works in payments or compliance is very aware that casino customers are different creatures, dare I say. Well, they're not well, they are. But no, they're different type. They have different behavior patterns. They're different around payments, and they're very different around compliance. And actually, they can be more of a compliance concern. What worries me about the market is this lack of always-on sport. And I know you talked about margin, and sometimes I look at these big blue ribbon, what I call beer sports, which we invented this morning. Beer sports, which is obviously the core US sports. And we're trying to encourage our customers to get into champagne sports, golf, tennis, horse racing, which is a challenge in the market. So, do you see a 50-50 mix within a couple of years between sport and iGaming, or do you think it's just going to stay as is?
I think from the Fanduel perspective, we'd love to get a podium position on our iGaming products as well, and we have some great minds on the product and the commercial side who are thinking about the partnerships that we have here in Ontario with the newest, the best games providers. How do we merchandise and make them unique to Ontario with a flavor that they're going to appreciate? And anyone can play blackjack at any of the 41 operators, but what's going to make Fanduel and Fanduel Casino unique, that's going to keep them coming back. So we're experimenting in things like free-to-play, which is ultimately a way that we cross-sell into the iGaming paid casino, but we're trying to differentiate and offer different types of experiences that are going to draw new customers in that maybe aren't sports bettors. And we have a dedicated casino app in the App Store and a dedicated product. And we're trying to cater to multiple different types of audiences using different technology.
So I read that as Brian smashing it on sports and wants to grow his casino business, but everyone else is kind of the other way around. And I use that anecdotally about compliance.
Yeah.
But what do you see?
Yeah, I really think that sports is just going to become an acquisition channel for the majority of casinos. Unless you can differentiate your offering on sports. Fanduel is very different offerings, so they will always have a strong place in the market. And if you could come up with product or service or something that is very different, that you can get different types of players for sports, higher value, better looked after, better managed players, and there will definitely be a market for it. But if you're looking at general players, then they are just going to migrate over to casino, unfortunately, because that's what they do everywhere.
But that's the challenge around we talk about sustainability, because let's be clear, casino customers don't hang around as long.
Well, and this way it comes down to sustainable player value, because actually if you manage the players correctly and you take them on a journey, and that includes the compliance journey, includes the payments journey, includes any issues if you've got complaints or fraud, then even casino players elsewhere have been started to be managed. And actually retention rates on casino have grown in mature markets that are actually managing the players right. So it isn't all doom and gloom, and your acquisition costs aren't going to skyrocket at the moment unless you get something wrong. So, the more investment you make in sustainable player value in casino, the better I think you'll have a long-term option.
You're the first person who's ever said that, but I couldn't agree more. You need to look at casino clients and ways of retaining them, and maybe calming their behaviour, and that's part of what you do. Right, someone called Annie Anonymous. There we go. What are the highest risk payment instruments in the iGaming space, and how are those risks being mitigated with limits, RegTech, or otherwise? Who wants to go first?
Actually, the highest risk payments are the ones that hide behind the front ones. So people
Explain.
So people are using instruments behind the legal instruments. So they want to use a certain type of payment. We can say crypto, but that actually, and then that actually gets translated through the payment system into a normal payment. So actually, that is the highest risk that's going on, where the operator and the payments company isn't always aware of the source of funds and where it's coming from. And unfortunately, any new market will have a lot of people throwing a lot of money at creating these new payment methods to help solve problems.
So yeah, and I think we found if someone, I'll look over if they're still here, if someone deposits $500 on a credit card and then tries to withdraw it into their account, it stinks, traditionally. They're up to something.
So people will find ways around it, okay? It's happened in every market, and unfortunately it will happen here. So when that question up there is great, and we traditionally have always focused on, maybe it's the prepaid cards, maybe it's the debit cards, maybe it is the credit cards. Well, it's not. It's what hides behind them that the operator doesn't see.
I'm looking over to Clive. Arbitrage on bet offers and stuff like that. Does that happen? Do people arb in Canada? Not as much. Okay, we'll move on. Okay, what do you think is still missing in Canada and North America, British people, in terms of technology and regulations?
I'll take the regulation one. I think the real focus on responsibility, long term, and it's an integrated responsibility. This, single view of customer.
You're just selling crucial compliance now.
Yeah, I am completely. Right. But also national self-exclusion schemes. They just don't exist. It's a crazy situation. So the regulation has to catch up, and the regulation has to get into a situation where the operators are driven to support. But, regulation is not there yet. I think it's evolving. The US market, pretty poor.
So you're talking like a GAM care equivalent. So this is a universal exclusion, so you can just opt out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think responsible gaming is always going to be a topic that's at the heart of everyone's mind, and finding ways for operators to collaborate together on shared problems, I think, is something that we need to get better at. Self-exclusion lists are just one example of that, where if we or someone self-excludes from our platform, or we suspend them from our platform for a very good reason most of the time, I hope all the time, we don't want them going somewhere else, and that's just a strain on the entire market. It's not just us.
I think that's a great answer. I think a sort of universal exclusion program. We've actually found that people win a lot and then self-exclude. It doesn't happen in Europe. Normally you lose a lot and self-exclude, but in Canada they have a reverse mentality on that.
And just to add with what do I think is missing? I think from a technology perspective, it's our job and our product team's job to push the envelope in terms of new customer journeys and experiences, we get hung up a lot, I think, with regulatory and compliance because these are things that they haven't seen before. And it's our job to teach, in a lot of instances, these regulators, what are we trying to bring to the market and how is it, one, going to help our consumer base, but two, how is it going to be safe and reliable, consistent, and using RG as the example of that, how is it going to be safe for our consumers?
I think on that, actually, in Europe, to a certain extent, a lot of resource on innovation has reverse, has been invested in compliance and fast-moving legislation. And so the actual end consumer, like, I can't remember, like, some of the innovation we haven't seen, what's I going to say, like, cash outs and stuff like that was like the last innovation we've seen in Europe. And I hope that both Fanduel and other operators in this market can come up with some really fun and great innovation in products.
And actually, although it's a negative in the US, having different rules and regulations in each state does actually allow more innovation. Because if you've got the same rules across the whole US, then there is only going to be one level of innovation. So if actually the negativity can be turned into a positivity on technology, it is the opportunity for innovation in individual states.
And in the retail space in the US, we've had the opportunity to trial different types of innovations in more regulatory friendly states and have used that success as a way to bring those ideas to other regulatory bodies and say, hey, this has worked in this state. We think this can do well in this state. Here are the reasons why. And it actually has spurned some innovation.
Yeah, like 50 Petri dishes of testing, yeah. This one has been generated by ChatGPT. From the operator perspective, speaking of automation, what would you like to automate as fast as possible? I mean, if you're being cheap, it's customer service. Because, like, just as soon as ChatGPT came out, we're like, great, we're firing everyone in Manila. We're switching that on. No, in all honesty, what would you think would be working?
Well, definitely customer service. When we approach the Super Bowl,
He wants to fire everyone in Manila, right?
But I think it's still worth having a human element to customer service that can really understand what the customer is going through. And we have a really great 360-degree process at Fanduel where we're, from the technology side, we're meeting with our customer service representative and manager and leadership on a monthly basis, and we're taking the pain points of customers and we're converting that into enhancements to our product, and it's really been great from that perspective. I think in terms of automation, getting back to payments, something that we've found really challenging is actually rolling out new payments because they're actual financial transactions, and how do we test those rails and those integrations safely where we can determine that the technology is working as it should without, the joke is someone has to be in Canada depositing and withdrawing from their own bank account for us to test that this is working, and that seems off to me. Like, we need a better solution, and I think we need better partnership with the payment processors and providers, not just in Ontario but in the US, to make that frictionless for the technology groups.
I find Apple Pay so utterly seamless that I just don't know why it isn't on everything. And you can buy a car on Apple Pay, and it's crazy. And we haven't, and I'm sure you guys do, but it's just crazy that some of the things we have to jump through, like no one knows the 3-digit number on the back of their card. I mean, I don't anyway. Automation as well, I suppose. You're another plug for Crucial Compliance.
Yeah, of course, but it's not just us. There are other people in the industry. But no, it's got to be regulation and technology because most operators still manage their compliance on Excel spreadsheets. Grossly inefficient. There's a reason why companies have huge back office teams in Manila. It's inefficiency. So a little bit of investment goes a long way. And we're not where we were 5 years ago, where every company had to build their own RegTech. Okay, you can actually go out and buy it now. So I would encourage people to invest in RegTech because it's going to make your life so much easier. It's going to make your customers' life easier. And more importantly, you're going to sit there without any fines.
With 45 seconds to go, I'd like to apologize to the people of the Philippines, firstly. I think automation, I also think like loading up, just following what customer needs, so what sport they're more interested in, loading that up first. I mean, that's the sort of thing we talked about 3 or 4 years ago, and actually we're 6 months off that. level of technology where you can just really give customers exactly what they want to buy. Amazonification of sports betting and stuff like that would be really exciting. Last question, just so with 15 seconds to go, what are the biggest struggles finance teams are facing now? You're on.
I mean, it's just automation. Keep loading, keep adding more payment methods. Going back to the previous question, you were mentioning that's the biggest difference between Europe and North America is payments. You're still very far behind. Our financial services markets are significantly more advanced than here, and then finance teams suffer. So
I think also to add to that, open banking, so full integration of your sports betting and iGaming app with a banking provider should sort your KYC, your AML, everything at one go, but no one in the finance sector is willing to get their shit together.
Or give us the data.
Or give you the data. On that bombshell, no, I'm joking. Thank you, everyone. I think that's the end of the conference. So there's a place called The Pint just there. If you see me there, I'll buy you a drink. I'm not going there. Thank you so much. It could be seen as a bit of a dry topic, but with these three brilliant maestros, it's been fascinating. And to be honest, it's really about product, money, speed of money, and compliance, which are critical to the industry to getting it right. And I think we've covered all those bases in depth. So thank you very much for your time. And see you next year.